What's going on? Just about 6 o'clock from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Robert Walsh. Coaching cycle is moving quickly with two more jobs off the board. Panthers and former Tampa Bay offensive coordinator Dave Canales signing a 6-year deal to be the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. 6 years is becoming more common for coaches. DeMeco Ryans, Dan Campbell, and Kyle Shanahan all initially signed a 6-year deal. And the Atlanta Falcons also finding their head coach. It isn't Bill Belichick. It isn't Mike Vrabel. They go with their 2020 interim head coach, Raheem Morris. Morris was praised by former players when the news was announced. Jalen Ramsey saying Falcons got one of, if not the best, coach in the NFL. And Brian Callahan was introduced yesterday to be the head coach of the Titans. Amid sharing his offensive philosophies and how he would fix the protection, he shared what made him love coming into work.
There's something special about where I came from that I hope to replicate here. I think you can see it in how I feel when I speak about it, but I love going to work every single day there. And that's the environment we're going to create here. I want a place where people love coming to work, they enjoy everybody they're around, and that creates an environment that's sustainable, and you can have sustained excellence and have a chance to win a lot of football games. And so that's what we're after.
For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Friday morning starts right now on RKW, brewed up by Athan Roast. A big week ends with one more big show. And our first conversation with Tennessee Titans head coach Brian Callahan coming up at 7:20 this morning. Lots still to discuss and reactions from yesterday's introductory press conference featuring Amy Adams-Strunk, Rand Carthon, and the new head coach, Brian Callahan. 615-737-1045, the number, with Ramon Foster and Kayla Anderson. Robert Walsh, our producer. I'm Will Bowling. On this show, we have a motto, and this week, I think we've lived this motto essentially the entire week, where we say it's Friday, and we're going to act like it.
Yay.
Sir Charles Jones. Ooh, all the workers.
Yes, it is.
Yes, indeed.
Good morning, everyone.
How's everybody doing,
Morning.
man? I'm writing down notes and stuff, trying to make sure I'm all together by the time Coach Brian Callahan come on here, man.
Look at
That's
that.
all that was, man.
Look at that. In your phone? I can't even read notes in my phone.
You can't. Now, my notes is where I go to. If I have a thought these days, I'm going immediately to my, because it's been times I've had great ideas. Probably, I'm talking about the best inventions in the world, okay? And I forgot about them because I didn't write them
Now
down.
I know. The older we get, the more we're like, wait, I thought I had that idea. What was it? And it comes to you like 4 days later.
That's what I'm saying. Can't have that.
You guys know what I'm writing down in my notes right now?
What?
What?
It's a new nickname for Ramon Foster. It's Big Bezel Foster. I don't know if you guys seen the watch he walked in here with.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
But it's hard holding that thing down. Ramon's wrist is going to be tired at the end of the day.
I thought that was just
I
the
know.
sun rising.
Ah!
But
Not yet.
actually, it's just it just tells time. Is that what?
Is that what those are for?
I
What do
did
those hands
notice that.
mean?
Is that a swatch? What is that?
So there's two hands on it. What are they? One's pointing one direction. What do those mean?
It's what-
You
it's
got to show
what-
it off for the chat, man. You can't be bashful now.
Oh, he's gotta take it off
This
now.
old thing, man. This old
This old
thing.
thing.
That's what is wrong with y'all today, okay? Put on.
I have a gold
something
one like that,
decent.
and it leaves green on my wrist.
Long as it's not around your neck either, okay? No, Kayla. This one bet not turn green. I tell you that daggone much, okay? It was a little treat to myself years and years back, man. Bert, what is your mom has made you too fancy, okay?
No, man, I ain't in here rocking big bezel Foster wrists like that, man.
Baby, it's just some light, some light.
It looks anything but light. It looks extremely heavy.
It is.
that literally could not be my watch. Literally could not be my watch.
Nah. Well, I see it's Friday and we acting like it, huh? Goodness,
Apparently.
man. Y'all are hilarious. I bought this cool sweatshirt, man. Me and Kayla was talking beforehand. It's Hillman College, not a real college. It's from the Cosby Show.
Oh.
Remember when Kanye said, I ain't one of the Cosbys, I ain't go to Hillman. And I was like, okay, yeah. Of course, I love this show. I'm actually rewatching A Different World now. So I did find a new show to watch, which is a Bill Cosby, Debbie Allen spinoff.
Yep.
It was supposed to be for Denise Huxtable. And she ended up, I think she ended up dating Lenny Kravitz. And she got pregnant.
And so then she couldn't do it.
And she couldn't do it. And back in that day, of course, they was trying to hold a standard high of like what they were putting on TV and stuff.
With no pregnant women.
Yeah, with Debbie, well, they were college students.
Right,
You know,
right,
and somebody
right.
did have some issues and stuff like that. They go through a lot of stuff on the show. I'm talking about a phenomenal, beautiful show. If you've never watched A Different World, you would appreciate
Where
it.
is it located?
The Cosby's out of New York, so it's like
No, but where's it?
What?
Boo him.
In
Boo him.
a little suburb in New York.
I'm trying to give a
You can
great
watch it on Max,
story.
Kayla. Don't
Max?
listen to him.
Okay.
Yeah, what is wrong? Where can you find
Yes.
it?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Where is it?
Oh,
Max.
it's in New York. What is wrong with
So I'm
you?
guessing the spin-off of the show will feature actors that haven't been canceled.
Well, yeah. Well, if you watch the show, he's not even really in that one.
I would assume so at this point.
Yeah, no. He don't really make many appearances in A Different World. It was more Debbie Allen's
Yep.
show than it was his. He was just, of course, the producer of it, meaning the money behind it.
I've never known that Hillman was Cosby Show.
Yeah.
Because the Chance the Rapper has a song of like I can go to heaven or Hillman.
Yeah, it's just the fictitious coolness of what A Different World was and what the culture of, honestly, just what minorities went to.
Right.
But Hillman wasn't an HBCU, I don't think, unless I have it wrong on there. But it's awesome. But yeah, Jada Pinkett is on there. There's a lot of people who was on that show. A lot of people made
Hey,
debuts.
keep her name out of your mouth.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, Will. It is a great, when TV shows were great. You remember those days? This is
Yeah.
one of those.
They're
for
still
me.
great. What are you talking about?
Some of the best are oldies.
Herschel says in here, Hillman College was a women's college in Mississippi from 1853 to 1942. Hey, there we go. It was a
learning some
fictitious
history
HBCU.
today.
Huh?
We're learning some history today.
Well, it's just, I love that. I'm talking about absolutely love that show, despite, of course, the man behind it.
615-737-1045 coming up this morning. Titans head coach Brian Callahan, your first chance to hear him this morning talk to us. He did survive the Boom Boom Room experience on 3HL yesterday, so he has made it out alive, and I hope that means that he will grace the zone with his presence once again.
That was probably one of the better Boom Boom Rooms I've heard.
Yeah.
He was great in that.
He was, man. When he dropped E40 as his music reference, he was like, I was like, you know what? He's done. He's
Mic
done.
drop.
It was real cool. But he from
Go
the
research who that was. Not gonna lie to you.
you'll know one of his songs for sure.
Okay,
Yeah, you'll know where he's at. He's from the Bay.
Bay Area, baby.
And
I've learned that. Yes.
Yeah, he was like, well, that's where I'm from. Of course I like E40, man. 40 water.
Love it.
Love E40, man. Super cool dude. Another one of those people that if you know him, you'll appreciate him.
Okay. Kelsey Conway of the Inquirer, USA Today network beat reporter covering the Cincinnati Bengals, will join us at 8:20. She had a tweet when Brian Callahan was hired by the Titans and said, Brian Callahan is one of the most impressive coaches I've ever been around. He is smart, personal, and will be a perfect fit to pair with Will Levis. Titans got a stud head coach. So we will ask her about that, what she means by that, and what kind of staff Brian Callahan could potentially bring to Nashville, which we did get kind of a non-answer on yesterday, of course, because Bill Callahan, his dad, is still under contract in Cleveland. So obviously can't answer about a coach who is under contract, even one who is, your father, which is a little different. And then Brent Hubbs of VolQuest, we move his weekly spot from 7:20 to 9:20. And we appreciate our VolQuest friends for graciously accommodating a crazy week here on the show. But Brent said something to the tune of I think the head coach of the Titans is a little more important than I am.
Yeah.
So he will be at 9:20 with us this morning.
Looking forward to his conversation, too. Big week for the Vols, hearing him. Vols come here this weekend, too.
They will be here tomorrow.
Are you guys going?
Yeah, I'm
Yep.
going to go to it for
I
sure,
thought so.
for sure.
Be in the building.
I'm seeing certain sports. They got games on Saturday with club kids and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Kind of somewhat flex their schedules around the
little
game,
bit there.
man. And I'm appreciative of it because my nephew and son both had games tomorrow night, and somehow they got moved to Sunday.
I wonder how that happened.
I wonder why.
Well, that is what I think we were saying yesterday when Raheem Morris was hired as the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. That is the thing that happened yesterday. No Bill Belichick, no Mike Vrabel, no Bobby Slowick. Defensive guy who's been a head coach before who was not necessarily successful as a head coach his first time around. If you had told me that was the profile, I would have said, why is Dan Quinn getting a second try in Atlanta? But Raheem Morris is the pick. Surprised?
A little bit. Yes, because everybody told us it was Bill Belichick's job to lose. Bill went back quick for a second interview. Raheem Morris was on my radar. I just didn't know how strong of a candidate he was. I did see, of course, people making a case for Raheem Morris and not trying to, it wasn't like it was a charity, but Raheem Morris got a bad squeeze, I think, the last time he was in Tampa. And the fact that you can go rewash yourself at a different organization and under different systems and grow better as a coach, which is why we started talking about David Shaw, right?
Yeah.
Those types of things happen in coaching where you learn from your pitfalls. And somehow he sold Arthur Blank. The thing that always worried me with Belichick was, we said it yesterday, the age.
Yeah.
How you going to rebuild Atlanta when your owner's 82 and your potential head coach is 72 or whatever Bill Belichick's age is?
And I think in this hire, I was definitely shocked. And I'm not oh my God, this is the worst hire ever. But I was like, with all the other people you've interviewed, now, how many of those people want the job? There is a lot that goes on behind the scenes that people don't know, right? There's a lot of politicking that goes on behind the scenes. With this particular job, I felt like there was some not seen eye to eye, like we said yesterday, with some of the execs and Arthur Blank. And, it seems like a little bit of a mess there. But with him, I guess I'm just surprised he's had such an interesting journey, being a head coach a little earlier on with Tampa Bay and then kind of going backwards. He was with Atlanta at some point as an assistant head coach and a pass game coordinator, then a wide receivers coach, defensive coordinator, interim head coach. So maybe at the end of this kind of time, we've seen him learn a little bit, and maybe they felt like he was ready for that job then to be a head coach again and wanted to give him a chance to do that, and went opposite of the Arthur Smith hire and went defense. And we always talk about that. That next hire is usually opposite. It's trending to be that way in this cycle too.
Only one that hasn't been opposite so far, I think, is Carolina.
Right.
They went OC to OC, but you're
that's
right.
right.
Yeah,
You're
that's
right.
the only one in the cycle, if I'm not mistaken.
I just don't understand, why would you let a guy leave your building in 2020 and then bring him back 4 years later? If he was really good enough for the job, then why wouldn't you have just kept him in your building? I saw some Falcons fans saying that yesterday of we're really just going to go hire the guy that was the interim 4 years ago after
weird.
Dan Quinn got fired. I don't think it makes any sense, especially a team that doesn't have a quarterback, to go with a defensive coach that's just going to, Desmond Ritter's not the guy there. So I wonder if that means that one of those veteran quarterbacks is going to be bound for Atlanta. And maybe it is Kirk Cousins who ends up there now. 615-737-1045, our number. Coming up, before we talk to Titans head coach Brian Callahan live on the show at 7:20, we'll hear what he said yesterday in his introductory press conference. And one quote from Rand Carthon that has made the rounds that is most telling, considering the culture we have talked about from Mike Vrabel's staff and the Mike Vrabel era in the Titans locker room this week, and what could be next for Brian Callahan and the culture he's establishing within that locker room. 615-737-1045. We'll hear from Brian Callahan coming up next.
Hey, it's Kayla Anderson with QC Kinetics, and you can make the decision right now to get lasting relief from all that awful joint pain for 2024. Don't go another year compromising because of that pain in your knees or back or shoulder. Call QC Kinetics now. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative non-surgical pain relief. And if you didn't know this, your body actually has what it needs to restore and repair that damaged joint tissue. QC Kinetics can make it happen with no drugs, no surgery, and no downtime. The future of pain treatments has arrived, and QC Kinetics has tens and thousands of satisfied patients all over America, people with back pain, hip pain, and pain associated with arthritis or an old injury. It's not a Band-Aid. This is a revolutionary treatment that can get you moving again, get your life back. And listen, it's non-surgical. So get a consultation on the books today. Call QC Kinetics now, 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024.
RKW is brewed up by Athan Roast on 104.5 The Zone, 615-737-1045. Check out Athan Roast today. Good cup of coffee to finish off your week is a great, great thing. Locations on 8th Avenue, Charlotte, the airport, and their brand new spot at the Broadview at Vanderbilt. You got plenty of parking. You got a great brand new location right there. Check them out or find your favorite retail bag in every local Kroger and Whole Foods as well. We have officially met Brian Callahan. His first meeting with the media yesterday was genuine, authentic. There was a lot to discuss with him. But, guys, the first quote from Ran Carthon is where we begin in recapping what was spoken about yesterday about not hunting at the same time, but hunting together. And Burke Nihill was honest with us the other day that, like, come on, guys, let's be honest. These are all buzzwords. But this buzzword feels especially significant within that building.
The one thing that stood out to us with Callie was just his ability to not only know what he wants, but be able to articulate that in a clear and concise manner. And what that would allow us to do, it allow our players to understand what their roles are and go out and execute and play fast, which is what we're going to do. But the only other side of that, as a scout, as a personnel guy, it gives us the ability to know what we're going out to hunt for. And one thing that we keep talking about here as our group is hunting at the same time isn't the same as hunting together. And under Brian Callahan, we will be going out and hunting together. And so I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited, and I'm actually ready to get off this podium and get on.
And there's Ran Carthon yesterday, ready to get off the podium, and then it just kind of ended from there. But what does that mean to you? Don't hunt at the same time, hunt together.
It means we all can be on the same field together. That's essentially what the game is. Like, everybody's out there, right? But the plan isn't the absolute the same from everybody. What I also got from it was knowing what to do and executing is what he said before actually saying hunting together. It almost seemed like the message either wasn't the same or it wasn't pushed out the same to me. And it seems like this building had to get on the same page. It's almost like Mufasa and Scar, right? Like, they had to go hunt, but essentially Scar was looking at something else. It wasn't the same point. It wasn't the same exact mission. We all have to eat, but I'm eating a little bit different. My goals of eating isn't the same as everybody else, and you starve that way, though. You miss out on opportunities where you're close to those one-score games, right? That's what we're talking about. How do you close out those one-score games? And it's essentially saying to me, the message wasn't uniform inside the building before. And it seems like Coach Callahan has that understood that communication, simplifying things, and knowing what you're doing is going to be a crucial part of this team's success.
And I think being able to, if you dive even deeper to that, if we're talking game speak, like being able to adjust and then come together and hunt together in a game situation, right? Or just any given Sunday. Every Sunday is different in the way you're approaching a team. And even with personnel sometimes and how you're going to put together a game plan. And sometimes maybe this wide receiver is going to eat this day. Yeah. Maybe they're not going to eat as much the other day, right? So I think that goes in even deeper to like the details of that, which, again, wasn't really happening over the last couple of years at least.
Yeah.
If we know reportedly that Ran Carthon and Mike Vrabel got along, why do you think he is going out of his way to make a comment like this?
Because he got his guy. He got his guy. It's not like I have to fit into your mold. It's almost as if, well, you think you should set it? No, if we're going to reset this thing and collaborate together, then everybody has to set the same message. I'm for what you're for, but you can't tell me this is the game plan if I'm telling you there are 6 other people over here that don't believe in what you're telling them. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's – I can go get something for you, Will, if you tell me to, right, Kayla? But it might not be good for us.
Right.
Right? Like, and I think there was a miscommunication or lack of collaborating indirectly at times to the way this was broken down to me.
Yeah. And Rand was new last year, right? So he was part of what he was doing too was taking it all in. Like, how does this thing operate? And at the time, the thing was operating with kind of parts falling off and things not connected. And now, I think for him at least, when he reflects back to last year and the disconnect, Like, it's his job now with his new title to connect things. And this is a big part of it is your right-hand man in Brian Callahan. And, like, you're right. It's his guy.
And the other thing, too, for me is Rand from day one said he going to do whatever it takes to get Coach Vrabel what he want, right? And I don't want to make this all about him and them, but, like, I'm here to serve you. Whatever you need, I got you. But, of course, we need to talk and communicate and collaborate on these things. That was the hot word, right? We need to make sure we're on the same page with everything that we're doing, so we're in lockstep. I think the relationship was probably awesome, but they weren't after the same goals or the same mission when it comes down to how it evolved. And it seems to me that's what Callahan somewhat blew them away with. However we need to win, whatever we need to do, and whoever we need to use, we would do that.
I think the distinction we can make is that although Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon maybe got along in a football sense, I don't know if they had the same kind of people skills.
I agree.
And I think that's maybe where we fall in this. And that's probably why this feels like something that's important to note at the beginning of a press conference to introduce Brian Callahan, is that not only are we going to see eye to eye in a football sense of how to rebuild this thing, we also are going to see eye to eye on how to talk to players and how to create a more positive and open-minded culture within the building that, from Wesley Woodyard, again, had maybe not been the case over the past couple of years. Brian Callahan did say as he started his press conference that he also sees building a team the same way that Rand does.
Now, really most importantly, though, that there was an instant connection with Rand and I. And we see building a team, we see the culture of the building the same. And that's an important part of this entire process. His energy and passion for the Tennessee Titans made me believe in him. And that's what made me want to be here, standing in this room. And I'm, again, thankful that I get to be here because a lot of that is because of what Rand presented as we started this process. He's an excellent communicator, and he's an outstanding person. He's earned my respect immediately, and Rand, I can't wait to get going.
That is something I think that's the first thing that got my attention from that press conference, is that we see relating to people and relating to players the same. Brian Callahan and Rand Carthon. That is a difference, and that is a shift, I believe, from what the previous regime was.
It is, and to me, I feel like what we're hearing is a lot of people in the building listen to what the players are saying. Either the players were saying, as Wes said yesterday, a couple of days ago, like they want to be included, like certain small rules and things that the players like. For case in point, for a while in Pittsburgh, we had to pay for lunch in the summer. Mm-hmm. You know, it was just one of those small things. And the lunch wasn't but $7, but guys don't carry cash on them in that era. Like, we didn't have Apple Pay or nothing like that. And it was just one of those small things like, hey, why we got to pay for lunch? And, of course, this is the way we always did it. You know, it's like, but why we have to pay for lunch if we're already here, you want us here, and you need to feed us because we're your employees. So why do we have to pay for lunch? You know what happened? That changed. We didn't have to pay for lunch no more. And that's a small thing, but there's one of those players things, okay, to where it's, all right, what do you need to make this building better to help you be successful? And on the back end of that, the cafeteria workers were tipped and paid well at the end of the season. I mean, around Christmas time, everything flowed because it's just a small item thing to where players have to have what they need in order to maximize their production for you. I know what you're saying, Ramon, it might have been $5 to $7. Yeah, but that's the same thing we're speaking about when you're asking, man, can kiddos come in the locker room afterwards? The players need certain things in that building. And you can call them spoiled, you can call them entitled, you can call them everything. But what you also need to say is we need those guys to be as good as they need to be mentally, physically, and just have all the small essentials that they possibly need to be great pros. Mm-hmm. If you got to go into the work day, into the building, which was another thing to me that he said yesterday, we're going to make coming into this building fun. Why would somebody say that if it wasn't already fun?
Because the last guy didn't.
But that matters to the players, would it not?
Yeah, right. Of course.
So you're hearing small things that are major things for guys. The guys have all the doggone stuff in the world that they want, right? They can go buy whatever the hell they want at any time and get whatever they want to. And they probably got more access and excess than they possibly ever thought of. But when you go to work and your job is to perform, and you do this at a high level, and you mean to tell me we can't do small item things like maybe shoot pool or shoot basketball in the locker room? And I know that went on. But when you're taking away from what the actual product is that matters, we can love all these coaches all we want. We can love the brand all we want. But what you want to love is the players on the field. Mm-hmm. And if they need something in the weight room, trainer room, cafeteria, or locker room, more times than not, you can negotiate and collaborate and be on the same page to do that type of stuff. Now, again, it's very small stuff, but it matters on a larger scale. So hearing those catchphrases and hunting together and, collaborating and being on the same page, like that to me was very telling.
They're looking for a different type of leader than who they had before. And I'm not going to completely take away the fact that Mike Vrabel wasn't a leader. He led in a different way that didn't end up being helpful in the end when you were losing games and when you had losing seasons. And now you look at that and you're like, okay, that's not going to work to advance this organization to win a Super Bowl. Like, at least in our place, it's not going to work. Maybe it works somewhere else, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe it works. The Bill Belichick way works if you get a quarterback that's phenomenal and you guys continue to win games and you can continue to be that guy that maybe just is more of the dictator type. Mm-hmm. I think the Titans were like, we're going opposite. We want a guy who is known in his career, while he hasn't been a head coach, is known in his career for listening to his players, for listening to his staff members, and not always having to go with what they say, but at least taking the time to sit back and listen for a moment and say, hey, maybe we do tweak this, or maybe we should do this differently, and then make an idea or a move on that. But I think it was not like that at all in here. I think there was no listening involved at the top when it came to the head coach. Therefore, the players got frustrated with a lot of things. And when you lose, then it's magnified. So I think with this hire, it shows they went completely opposite with the guy who is known in the past, especially with his quarterback work, with all the different quarterbacks he's worked with, is he's a guy who will listen. And he said it yesterday. I'm going to listen to what everybody says, but doesn't mean I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I think the distinction could be, too, that he's going to listen to the undrafteds as much as he will the superstars.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that Mike Vrabel was not listening to Jeffrey Simmons or Derrick Henry or even Ryan Tannehill at times. But year one, Mike Vrabel wasn't at all. And I think that's the one thing we can most confidently say is when Taylor Lewan goes on Bussin' with the Boys and tells Mike Vrabel to his face, I hated you in year one. Wow. I did not understand why you are the way that you are and why you were so strict and militant about everything. I do think Mike Vrabel evolved over time, but Brian Callahan is coming in year one as a much different guy than Mike Vrabel was in year one. I think that's the most stark contrast to me is that even Mike Vrabel's biggest supporters and the guy that said this is a terrible move when he was fired didn't like the guy in year one, which shows, again, the shift this organization is trying to make. They'll also make a shift offensively with a coach who is as quarterback-centric as any head coach the Titans have ever had. And Brian Callahan had some interesting thoughts on his offensive philosophy yesterday as well.
I think the biggest thing that we want to do to start is put the players we have in great position. Let them be able to find their roles, define what those roles are for them, and put them in the matchups that we feel are to our advantage. That's a very broad, general offensive philosophy, but that's sort of the starting point. We want to be great detail in the passing game, route definition, route spacing. Want to be able to complete balls at a high percentage. That's always going to be the goal. The run game, we still want to be physical. Don't get that part twisted. That's been part of the Titans' identity for a long time, and it will continue to be. We'll be a physical football team, and we'll be able to run the ball the way we need to win football games. But that's probably the best way I could say it without going too far in the weeds.
Run the ball well enough when we need to win football games. I also love it, guys, when offensive minds like this who are known more for passing and throwing the ball around will also then say, we're still going to be physical, though. Like, how many times have we heard Josh Heupel in Knoxville? And I know it's apples and oranges, but their offensive head coaches make the comment about, we're still going to have to run the football.
You know what? You better believe him. That's what I took from it, too. Because, again, you can paint it pretty however you want to as, oh, man, we're moving into a new phase. But the ability that you're going to beat people up still in the run game. And here's the thing, too, that I'm hoping is moving forward. And I think it will. But we used to have a motto of, pass protection isn't passive. You can still be somewhat physical in your passing game if you're going to be one of those types of teams that pass the ball a lot. And you can also be very physical in how you protect your quarterback, too. Like, wide receivers can clean people up in the passing game. So watching him say we're going to be very physical in the run game, it makes me think that it's got to be understood in the pass protection aspect of it, too. Guys should get beat up. Guys should get cleaned up and knocked over as much as you think they should in the running game. To me, if y'all can't tell, this is exciting hearing this type of stuff. But I digress.
I was waiting for that, though. I was like, at some point, he's got to touch on the run game being some sort of an importance, especially here in Tennessee, which it's not going to be the same as what it has been for the past several years or just for such a long time here in Tennessee, like he said. But I was like, he's got to mention something about the run game being some part of importance still moving forward. And it is. You still have to have that part of your game there. There has to be some balance, right? And especially when you get into the playoff time, like you have to have that. So I was like, okay, there we go. There's the check mark there on that box.
I do think it's interesting the note that Rand Carthon made as well, that Todd Torselli, the vice president of sports medicine for the Titans as well, was in the discussion with Rand Carthon and in that interview process, which also tells you that the Titans as an organization are hiring a head coach to also keep their players more healthy and are not going to put that on a guy who has been in the organization since 2014 when he was hired as the director of sports medicine in 2014.
Guys, I think there is a glaring issue that we all need to make note of before we move on with all the pleasantries that happened in this press conference. Callie is a terrible nickname. That sounds like a dog's name. Like, he should be the hand man. He like ran and hand. It can't be. We can't call this dude Coach Callie. It sounds like they hired Airbud to be our head coach.
Airbud.
Sunshine.
Sunshine.
Like, that sounds like Sunshine grew up and then became Coach Callie. That's the spinoff to Remember the Titans. And these are the different kind of Titans.
How about just Coach Cal?
Coach Cal?
No, that's the Kentucky coach.
Right,
you can't do that.
With the C.
He's the hand man.
When we make the tournament, we want to actually win games.
Damn.
You idiot.
It's true.
You idiot. Coach
I just call coaches Coach.
Coach
Cal.
Cal.
Yeah.
Coach
I can't do
Callie.
anything more than that.
Nicknames have to happen organically, and they happen too quickly as a rule.
Always have to happen organically.
Way too quickly.
It seems like that was his nickname, in Cincy.
Yeah, it probably is. It'll stick.
615-737-1045. What did Brian Callahan had to say about Will Levis yesterday? It was the first question he answered. We'll talk about it next. Hey, it's Will Bowling here from my friends at Lee Company. Look, you hear me talk all the time about how Lee Company is all you need for your home. And if you're like me, you got a long to-do list. There are not any DIY projects on that list, right? I just end up making things worse anytime I'm trying to go through that thing. Well, Lee Company, that can also be the case for your facility as well. They are all you need for your facility. They're expert technicians on the facilities team. They have you covered, not just for HVAC, but for plumbing and electrical too. From healthcare facilities to industrial and everything in between, Lee Company is available 24/7, 365 to keep your building running efficiently. And that 24/7 part, they mean it, right? Problems always pop up in the worst possible moments. They are already there to help you at a moment's notice. 24/7, 365 to keep your building running efficiently. So remember this number, 615-567-1000, or contact them online at leecompany.com. That's 615-567-1000. Lee Company, all you need. RKW is brewed up by Athan Roast on 104.5 The Zone, 615-737-1045, our number. Your favorite retail bag of Athan Roast in every Kroger and Whole Foods right around Middle Tennessee. Go by and see him at one of their 4 locations this morning. Will Levis was a major topic of conversation yesterday, of course, as expected, for head coach Brian Callahan, who joins us on the show here in 30 minutes. This is what he had to say about Levis right at the start of his press conference and the first question he was asked.
Give me 1 second on that.
Oh, there's Robert Walsh. Okay.
Hey, Bert, what are you doing?
I was like, was Bert in the presser?
So I think that's the question that I'm most curious in, and the follow-up to what Brian Callahan told 3HL yesterday afternoon, where he said, I have not spoken to Liam Cohen yet since I took the job, but he is a guy I know very well, and you will see elements of what Levis did at Kentucky with Liam Cohen with us, which I thought was an interesting follow-up. But Bert, let me know when we have that from.
Yeah.
All right, we've got this is Brian Callahan yesterday on Will Levis.
I thought that Will was a really good player coming out of college. And I thought when you watch him play this year, you saw really growth. I mean, you saw him learn. The NFL is hard. It's hard on quarterbacks. It's particularly hard on young ones. And so I saw a lot of really positive things. Some of the throws, some of his competitive instincts that he put on tape were really impressive. And so I'm excited to get to dive more into that and how can he get better from year 1 to year 2 and keep putting him in position to have success, and so we can score some points on offense.
Competitive instincts of Will Levis are very different than Joe Burrow's competitive instincts. I would argue that those two quarterbacks are as different of human beings that are playing the quarterback position as anyone who's played it. And it's not a negative towards Levis, but that's a guy that wears his emotions on his sleeve, and you never have to wonder about what Will Levis is thinking. And then a guy in Joe Burrow who is Joe Cool with the Cartier and just smoking a cigar and looks unbothered at any possible moment. That is an interesting juxtaposition of quarterback personalities.
That's why I love it, because it's like you have 2 different guys. You look at the resume with Callahan, what he's worked with, he's got tons of different personalities. And we talked about how important it would be for a coach to come in here and really help continue the growth of Will Levis, because it's not going to happen in one season.
Yeah.
And this could be, I think, a match made in heaven in that aspect, because you are dealing with a guy who not only can do good things with him on the field and help his game on the field, but help him develop as a leader and maybe let him be that competitive guy, because Brian Callahan loves that part of his game, but kind of teeter that a little in the way that he maybe shows it too much sometimes. You know, like just find a good way to like, what's the word I'm looking in? Bring in those emotions sometimes, right? Or not do things that are going to put your body in harm. I feel like put that in Brian Callahan's hands to kind of shape, and I feel comfortable about that, considering his past with all these other quarterbacks he's worked with.
No doubt. That's where I'm at with it too. And my thing is, like you said, that year 1 to year 2 jump. Another thing that he said too, they were going to complete in the first clip that we had, we're going to complete passes at a high rate. You look at Joe Burrow and also Jake Brown in this past year. Joe Burrow in the games that he played, 66.8% completion rate. And then, of course, you look at the few games that Jake Brown has started this year, 7 games, he was completing 70% of his passes. Whether he was protecting them or whether he was just letting them do their thing. Either way, you can't frown upon looking at those completion percentages, can you? Like, that's my thing. When Levis came in this year, 58.6%. To make a jump, if Levis makes a jump to 66% completion, I think you got a better team, or at least a better pro in Levis. And that's what you're looking for, that year 1 to year 2 jump and a level of sustainability.
Well, I think clearly Brian Callahan believes enough in Will Levis to think this job is attractive because the quarterback's already in place. And I do think there's an element for Brian Callahan of his success is not tied to Will Levis as much as Ryan Carthon's is. Because when a quarterback is already in place, when you get there, if that quarterback doesn't work out, you don't lose your job over it. You get to pick your next guy. And I think that's the element of this that really makes it an attractive opening for Brian Callahan is pressure's kind of off, honestly.
I laugh because that's so true.
And I don't know if that's as much the case for Rand Carthon. And we talked about it last year. Like, that is the risk that Rand Carthon took in drafting a quarterback in his first draft as general manager. And I'm not insinuating that Rand would lose his job if Will Levis doesn't work out, but there is an element of pressure more so tied to him because he was the guy in the building when he made that selection. And that's why you hire a general manager, is to make difficult decisions like that, and we'll see if he pans out. But I think that is the interesting aspect of this, is how does Brian Callahan relate to Will Levis the same or differently as he did to Joe Burrow? Because I don't think those guys could be any more different.
Yeah, they are, for sure.
The one thing they're same about, they're football smart.
Yeah.
Like, I believe Will Levis and Joe Burrow are so smart in terms of, like, digesting the game, right? And dedicated to making sure they're diving into that playbook any opportunity they can get. I believe that's the similarity they share.
Coming up next, the Titans have officially requested to interview their first candidate for defensive coordinator. We'll give you the resume of the guy who knows Rand Carthon and spent time in one West Coast building with him that's not San Francisco. Plus, Brian Callahan joining us at 7:20. More on that, more on your thoughts as well on the new head coach of the Tennessee Titans next.
7 o'clock. Good morning. What's going on from the 104.5 The Zone Studios? I'm Robert Walsh. Brian Callahan was introduced as the next head coach of the Titans yesterday, and amid sharing what his offensive philosophies were and how he would fix the protection, he shared what makes him love coming into work.
There's something special about where I came from that I hope to replicate here. I think you can see it in how I feel when I speak about it, but I love going to work every single day there. And that's the environment we're going to create here. I want a place where people love coming to work, they enjoy everybody they're around, and that creates an environment that's sustainable, and you can have sustained excellence and have a chance to win a lot of football games. And so that's what we're after.
Coaching cycle moving quickly as two more jobs off the board. The Panthers and former Tampa Bay offensive coordinator Dave Canales signing a 6-year deal to become the new head coach of the Carolina Panthers. 6 years becoming more common for coaches. D'Amico Ryans, Dan Campbell, and Kyle Shanahan all signed an initial 6-year deal. The Falcons also found their head coach, and it isn't Bill Belichick. It isn't Mike Vrabel. They go with the 2020 interim head coach Raheem Morris. Morris was praised by former players when the news was announced. Jalen Ramsey saying Falcons got one of, if not the best coach in the NFL. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5. The Zone.
Hour number 2 off and running on a big show to end a big week. RKW is brewed up by Athan Roast. The best coffee in Nashville. Athan Roast Coffee cultivates community by the cup. Go by and see them on 8th Avenue, Charlotte, or their brand new location, brand spanking new, still bright and shiny, over at the Broadview at Vanderbilt. If you're over here by us in our Music Row studio, 615-737-1045 is our number. And coming up in 15 minutes, the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, Brian Callahan, will stop by, talk a little bit of football with us and what the past 24 hours has been like for him. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Robert Walsh producing. I'm Will Bowling. Never in my life did I think the head coach of the Tennessee Titans would quote a soccer coach. But that is one thing that happened yesterday.
Yes.
So I'm excited to ask Brian Callahan, what is the sport you're watching when football is not on? Because from what we have heard, it seems like we've got a head coach who likes a lot more than just football.
Oh, I was about to say,
I was
gonna say,
like,
your microphone has not been
you
on
were
this
doing
entire time.
something over there that you didn't want to be on for a second, so I was like, okay, well, just let him be
I
for a
was
second.
talking to Bert for a second, but I was
Okay.
just like, I thought my mic was back on. Bert, man, you usually tee me up. Oh, my God.
He's actually shutting that off.
He only knows how to shut down the mic. Okay. But big old day yesterday, man. The appreciation of the job is always going to be something that some people, say, oh, man, look at that. Of course you should be happy. But no, you should be happy. I viewed watching Coach Callahan yesterday with his presser, the intro, the raw emotions that came out, that sometimes you can't even control that stuff. And, of course, being in a situation where you've watched your father, grew up in it, and actually be at that same point was always cool to me. You know what? Sometimes kids look up to their dads, and that's all right. So I was glad to see that be a part of his presser yesterday.
It was also interesting because he mentioned, and his dad and his mom, Val, weren't there. They were watching via stream, but he had a lot of his coaches from his childhood, including the coach that gave him his first head coaching job. Not head coaching job, but coaching job. And I thought that was really cool. He had just people from his past there that have helped shape him, because this moment for him is different from what it was from maybe a Mike Vrabel or whatever, guy steps to that podium for the first time as a head coach. Everybody's paths are so different. And for him, he was never that standout player. Like, he was always, in high school, at De La Salle, he was behind the bench. At UCLA, he was a walk-on. And he didn't play in the NFL. So for him, he worked his way up to this point in a different way. So I felt like emotional too,